If the nuclear bomb had a name in terms of MMA, it would undoubtedly be the powerful overhand punch that flattens fighters to the floor instantly. Although not nearly as accurate as a jab or a cross, no other punch can generate more power than this bomb, and therefore, it's often seen being used as the last resort when an athlete is losing the fight.
That's all! He's down! And it is all over!
This video will cover the top 10 Hail Mary overhand KOs that turned the tide for fighters, transforming them from losing the fight to sending opponents to the shadow realm. 10. Scott Smith vs. Pete Sell. After losing in the quarterfinal against Travis Lutter in The Ultimate Fighter: The Comeback, Scott Smith got a chance for redemption in the season finale, locking horns with Pete Sell. In the first round, the fighters decided to go out there and trade with dynamites in the center of the octagon.
Scott Smith countered there by Sell.
While Pete Sell was the aggressor in the clinch, Smith was returning with fire in the striking exchanges. However, the crowning moment arrived in the second. For most of the round, Pete stalked the opponent like a predator ready to strike. He then steered the victim into an ambush and pulled the trigger, landing a nasty hook to the liver that put Scott Smith in agony. It seemed that it was all over, and Smith would probably need to apply for a liver transplant after the fight. Sell rushed toward the wounded prey in an attempt to finish what he started. But then, Scott Smith put his faith in the mother of all bombs, the overhand right. He pressed the nuclear button and landed clean, dropping the foe to the canvas. He then went for the kill, but the fight was already over.
Coming in!
That overhand was all that was needed to switch the course of the battle completely. 9. Robbie Lawler vs. Melvin Manhoef. Melvin Manhoef is one of the scariest, most explosive strikers in MMA history, and keeping the fight standing against him is never a bright idea. Just ask Mark Hunt, who's renowned for his granite chin. However, Robbie Lawler decided to ignore the danger and play Russian roulette at close range against an elite kickboxer with brutal power in his hands. From the opening bell, Manhoef took the center of the cage and started launching ballistic missiles. Lawler kept his composure, but the Dutch fighter switched his focus on the legs, trying to detach Robbie's leg with vicious kicks. As Manhoef was chopping off the lead leg
is being decimated.
It appeared that Lawler did not have an answer to those attacks, and that sooner or later his legs would give up. The Dutchman became overconfident due to his success and put his guard down for a moment. In the blink of an eye, Robbie launched an overhand rocket to the head that sent him straight to La La Land.
It's a Manhoef, and just like that, Lawler ends the fight!
Manhoef kicking that leg out, but there it is. A quick left that hand down and touched that chin. Look at that, he was done right here.
8. Demian Maia vs. Nate Marquardt. From October 2007 to February 2009, 5 unlucky UFC fellas tasted the bitterness of defeat at the hands of the high-level BJJ black belt Demian Maia. The Brazilian was setting the sport on fire, strangling everyone that got in his way, including the most recent victory against Chael Sonnen, the undefeated and undisputed gangster from Oregon. When he was set to fight Nate Marquardt next, Maia's game plan was apparent, spending less time striking than roosters flying. Unlike the other fights on the list, this bout is a little different. The Brazilian wasn't losing the fight, but everyone knew that if he were going to close the distance, Nate's oxygen supply would have been cut off right away. To avoid getting strangled by the submission wizard, the American needed to end the show quickly that night. In order to tame the unruly patient, he threw the overhand grenade that bleached Maia's BJJ black belt instantly.
For Nate Marquardt, and there it is. Wow!
7. Fedor Emelianenko vs. Brett Rogers. By June 2009, Brett Rogers had bulldozed through 10 opponents, and none of them survived to tell the tale beyond the second round. Following an incredible 22-second victory against the former champion Andrei Arlovsky, some people believe that Brett Rogers would give Fedor Emelianenko a run for his money. Rogers opened the hunting season with a jab that bloodied Fedor's nose immediately. Brett's strength was unreal, as he could scramble from the ground and control the last emperor in the clinch. Fedor tried to turn on the ground and pound Shredder as usual, but he was quickly overpowered, which subsequently led to receiving heavy shots on the ground. At the end of the round, Fedor's face looked like a Halloween mask, and it looked like the old Russian was slowing down, unable to outmaneuver the undefeated Rogers. However, in the second, Emelianenko showed that his striking is as deadly as a .44 Magnum shot, launching a devastating overhand right that dropped the American to the canvas. The Russian seized the opportunity and sealed the deal legally by pounding a couple of nails.
Jumped on him and finished him up. This is why he is so dangerous.
6. Tim Sylvia vs. Ray Mercer. Tim Sylvia is a former UFC heavyweight champion, winning the title twice. He's known for his victories against some of the top athletes in the sport, earning a reputation as one of the best fighters globally. One interesting event in Sylvia's career was a match against Olympic gold medalist boxer Ray Mercer. Originally planned as a boxing match, the bout was changed to follow MMA rules just days before it was set to take place. At first glance, Sylvia seemed confident and unbothered, thinking he had nothing to worry about. And who could blame him? We know who would be the absolute winner in 9 out of 10 fights between an MMA fighter and a boxer in MMA rules. We've seen what happened to James Toney in his fight against Randy Couture. However, Sylvia overlooked a crucial detail. Never underestimate the danger of standing still in front of a skilled boxer. The transition from boxing to MMA proved to be a surprising challenge for Sylvia, and it was the overhand punch that taught him a lesson about the diverse skills required in different fighting styles. 5. Alexander Pantoja versus Matt Schnell. Who says that flyweights don't have knockout power in their hands? Well, the overhand punch can turn even a flyweight to Francis Ngannou. Alexander Pantoja versus Matt Schnell jumped headfirst into a slugfest, and an all-out war broke out. In a heated exchange of artillery strikes, Matt Schnell caught Pantoja with a clean combination, leaving him visibly wounded. Nevertheless, when the Brazilian landed that overhand clean, Matt Schnell was sent straight to oblivion.
Matt Schnell comes rushing in, takes a big right hand over the top as he's looking for that body shot. Here we go again, looks for the body shot but leaves himself vulnerable to that right hook. I told you.
4. Roy Nelson versus Brendan Schaub. In the Ultimate Fighter Season 10 finale, Roy Nelson and Brendan Schaub faced off in a fight that had everyone talking. It was a match of contrasts. Schaub, the tall and muscular guy, against Nelson, who looked short and fat, as if he never skips the Sunday barbecues. At the beginning of the fight, Schaub took advantage of his height and reach, utilizing the jab early on. After an unsuccessful takedown attempt by Nelson, Brendan rained with bombs, discouraging the fat guy from keeping the fight on the feet. When the fight was brought to the feet again, Roy Nelson returned with fire, but his gun turned out to be bigger. No additional shots were required, as Brendan Schaub was already in the land of darkness. 3. Rashad Evans versus Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell's renowned for his KO power to knock opponents out cold. In the fight against Rashad Evans, he initiated a brawl, which Evans gladly accepted. Chuck had the advantage on the feet, constantly tagging the foe with clean shots. The logical game plan for Evans would have been to take the fight to the ground, as he was the superior wrestler. But as a surprise to many, he kept the fight standing and decided to go against Liddell without a bulletproof vest and a helmet. While exchanging shots with Chuck can be as dangerous as falling into a snake pit, Rashad proved to be quite the mongoose, delivering an overhand from hell that left the Iceman unconscious.
Quicker. One punch knockout.
2. Chuck Liddell versus Alistair Overeem. Following his loss to Couture, Liddell eagerly joined the Pride 2003 Middleweight Grand Prix tournament, proudly representing the UFC. In the opening seconds, Overeem quickly introduced Chuck to his power, making the American seek refuge on the canvas. Amid an exhilarating match, Liddell found himself facing the challenge of Overeem's taller stature, swifter movements, and superior striking techniques. The Dutch fighter had the advantage in the artillery exchange, and Chuck was slowing down. It looked like the kickboxer would pick Liddell apart on the feet, but then, you guessed it, the big overhand sent Overeem reeling, desperately seeking support against the ropes. Seizing the opportunity, Liddell aggressively closed in, raining with knees and straight rights that culminated in a knockout victory by the end of the first round. 1. Fedor Emelianenko versus Andrei Arlovski. Fedor Emelianenko has the ability to knock opponents out, submit them, execute judo throws, all while maintaining a seemingly emotionless expression. In one of his notable matches, he faced Andrei Arlovski, who was on a 5-fight winning streak and had finished 3 of his previous fights by knockout and 1 by TKO. Early on, Fedor realized he was no longer at the top of the food chain for the first time, being outstriked by the bigger Arlovski, who was catching Emelianenko with clean shots. As the fight progressed, he stalked Fedor into the corner, but little did he know that a cornered animal is the most dangerous one. The Belarusian got this brilliant idea to throw a flying knee against the last emperor himself. As he launched himself into the air, Arlovski was intercepted by an anti-tank missile that shut his lights off mid-air instantly. Well, what else can be said? They didn't call him the GOAT for nothing. And what do you guys think? Which one was your favorite Hail Mary overhand bomb?